Welcome to our journey through the fascinating life and travels of Ibn Battuta, one of history's greatest explorers whose adventures spanned across the Islamic world and beyond. Ibn Battuta's remarkable voyages during the 14th century not only reshaped geographical knowledge, but also offered invaluable insights into the diverse cultures, customs, and societies of his time. Join us as we delve into the extraordinary tales of exploration, discovery, and adventure that define the legacy of this legendary traveler. Abu Abdullah Muhammad ibn Battuta, also known as Ibn Battuta, was a renowned Moroccan scholar and explorer who lived during the 14th century. He was born in 1304 in Tangier, a city in present-day Morocco. Ibn Battuta is widely celebrated for his remarkable travels, which spanned over 3 decades and covered nearly 75,000 miles across the Islamic world and beyond. His adventurous spirit, insatiable curiosity, and keen intellect propelled him to explore diverse lands, cultures, and civilizations, leaving behind a legacy of invaluable insights documented in his famous travelogue. Rilla. Ibn Battuta was from a family that produced a number of Muslim judges. He received the traditional juristic and literary education in his native town of Tangier. In 1325, at the age of 21, he started his travels by undertaking the pilgrimage to Mecca. At first, his purpose was to fulfill that religious duty and to broaden his education by studying under famous scholars in Egypt, Syria, and the Hejaz. That he achieved his objectives is corroborated by long enumerations of scholars and Sufi saints whom he met, and also by a list of diplomas conferred on him. Those studies qualified him for judicial office. Whereas the claim of being a former pupil of the then outstanding authorities in traditional Islamic sciences greatly enhanced his chances and made him thereafter a respected guest at many courts. That renown was to follow later, however. In Egypt, where he arrived by the land route via Tunis and Tripoli, an irresistible passion for travel was born in his soul, and he decided to visit as many parts of the world as possible, setting as a rule never to travel any road a second time. His contemporaries traveled for practical reasons, but Ibn Battuta did it for its own sake, for the joy of learning about new countries and new peoples. He made a living of it, benefiting at the beginning from his scholarly status and later from his increasing fame as a traveler. He enjoyed the generosity and benevolence of numerous sultans, rulers, governors, and high dignitaries in the countries he visited, thus securing an income that enabled him to continue his wanderings. From Cairo, Ibn Battuta set out via Upper Egypt to the Red Sea, but then returned and visited Syria, there joining a caravan for Mecca. Having finished the pilgrimage in 1326, he crossed the Arabian desert to Iraq, southern Iran, Azerbaijan, and Baghdad. There he met the last of the Mongol Khans of Iran, Absad, and some lesser rulers. Ibn Battuta spent the years between 1327 and 1330 in Mecca and Medina leading the quiet life of a devotee, but such a long stay did not suit his temperament. Embarking on a boat in Jeddah, he sailed with a retinue of followers down both shores of the Red Sea to Yemen, crossed it by land, and set sail again from Aden. This time he navigated along the eastern African coast, visiting the trading city-states as far as Kilwa. His return journey took him to southern Arabia, Oman, Hormuz, southern Persia, and across the Persian Gulf back to Mecca in 1332. There a new, ambitious plan matured in his mind. Hearing of the Sultan of Delhi, Muhammad ibn Tughlaq, and his fabulous generosity to Muslim scholars, he decided to try his luck at his court. Forced by lack of communications to choose a more indirect route, Ibn Battuta turned northward, again past Egypt and Syria, and boarded ship for Asia Minor in Latakia. He crisscrossed that land of the Turks in many directions at a time when Anatolia was divided into numerous petty sultanates. Thus, his narrative provides a valuable source for the history of that country between the end of the Seljuk power and the rise of the House of Ottoman. Ibn Battuta was received cordially and generously by all the local rulers and heads of religious brotherhoods. Time in India and later journeys of Ibn Battuta. By that time Ibn Battuta was already a man of some importance and fame, with a large train of attendants and followers, and also with his own harem of legal wives and concubines. India and its ruler, Muhammad ibn Tughlaq, lived up to Ibn Battuta's expectations of wealth and generosity. And the traveller was received with honours and gifts and later appointed Grand Qadi of Delhi, a sinecure that he held for several years. Though he had apparently attained an easy life, it soon became clear that his new position was not without danger. Sultan Muhammad, an extraordinary mixture of generosity and cruelty, held sway over the greater part of India with an iron hand that fell indiscriminately upon high and low, Muslim and Hindu alike. Ibn Battuta witnessed all the glories and setbacks of the Sultan and his rule, fearing daily for his life as he saw many friends fall victim to the suspicious despot. His portrait of Muhammad is an unusually fine piece of psychological insight and mirrors faithfully the author's mixed feelings of terror and sympathy. Notwithstanding all his precautions, Ibn Battuta at last fell into disgrace, and only good fortune saved his life. Gaining favor again, he was appointed the Sultan's envoy to the Chinese emperor in 1342. He left Delhi without regrets, but his journey was full of other dangers. Not far away from Delhi his party was waylaid by Hindu insurgents, and the traveller barely escaped with his life. On the Malabar coast of southwestern India he became involved in local wars, and was finally shipwrecked near Calicut, losing all his property and the gifts for the Chinese emperor. Fearing the wrath of the Sultan, Ibn Battuta chose to go to the Maldive Islands, where he spent nearly 2 years. As a Qadi, he was soon active in politics, married into the ruling family, and apparently even aspired to become Sultan. He landed at the great Chinese port Zaytun and then traveled on inland waterways as far as Beijing and back. That part of his narrative is rather brief, and the itinerary, as well as the chronology, presents many problems and difficulties, not yet surmounted, that cast shadows of doubt on his veracity. Equally brief is his account of the return voyage via Sumatra, Malabar, and the Persian Gulf to Baghdad and Syria. In Syria he witnessed the ravages of the Black Death of 1348, visited again many towns there and in Egypt, and in the same year performed his final pilgrimage to Mecca. At last he decided to return home, sailing from Alexandria to Tunisia, then to Sardinia and Algiers, finally reaching Fez, the capital of the Marnid Sultan, Abin, in November 1349. But there still remained 2 Muslim countries not yet known to him. Shortly after his return he went to the Kingdom of Granada, the last remnant of Moorish Spain, and 2 years later he set out on a journey to the western Sudan. His last journey was taken unwillingly at the command of the Sultan. Crossing the Sahara, he spent a year in the Empire of Mali, then at the height of its power under Mansa Sulaim. His account represents one of the most important sources of that period for the history of that part of Africa. Toward the end of 1353 Ibn Battuta returned to Morocco and, at the Sultan's request, dictated his reminiscences to a writer, Ibn Juzay, who embellished the simple prose of Ibn Battuta with an ornate style and fragments of poetry. After that he passes from sight. He is reported to have held the office of Qadi in a town in Morocco before his death, details of which remain uncertain. It has been suggested that he died in 1368-69 or 1377 and was buried in his native town of Tanya. The claim of Ibn Battuta to be the traveller of Islam is well founded. It is estimated that the extent of his wanderings was some 75,000 miles, a figure hardly surpassed by anyone before the age of steam power. he visited almost all Muslim countries as well as many adjacent non-Muslim lands. Notably, however, he did not visit Central Persia, Armenia, and Georgia. While he did not discover new or unknown lands, and his contribution to scientific geography was minimal, the documentary value of his work has given it lasting historical and geographical significance. He met at least 60 rulers and a much greater number of viziers, governors, and other dignitaries. In his book he mentioned more than 2,000 persons who were known to him personally or whose tombs he visited. The majority of those people are identifiable by independent sources, and there are surprisingly few errors in names or dates in Ibn Battuta's material. His Rihla, as his book is commonly known, is an important document shedding light on many aspects of the social, cultural, and political history of a great part of the Muslim world. Ibn Battuta was a curious observer interested in the ways of life in various countries, and he described his experiences with a human approach rarely encountered in official historiography. His accounts of his travels in Asia Minor, East and West Africa, the Maldives, and India form a major source for the histories of those areas. Whereas the parts dealing with the Arab and Persian Middle East are valuable for their wealth of detail on various aspects of social and cultural life. Hope you have enjoyed the tale of Ibn Battuta. Thanks for watching.